Yeah, recording. Okay.
Sure.
This is John Kefuss. He's a breeder. He's one of the most famous beekeepers in the world.
Bad beekeepers are famous.
Sorry?
Bad beekeepers are famous.
Are you bad?
Sure, of course I'm a bad beekeeper.
Why would you say that?
Because I make more mistakes than everyone else.
What mistakes do you do?
Oh, let me think what's, sometimes once I gave a talk in Italy on, was it in Italy or someplace on bad beekeeping methods, and I like to test new ideas and things like that, and sometimes my new ideas that I test are not so good for the bees. But when I have a question, I always like to get the answer to the question, and that way it's not a question anymore. Otherwise it's always a question.
But if you don't do mistakes, that means you're doing nothing.
Well, sometimes doing nothing is a mistake also. So if, for instance, we've got problems down in southern France with hornets and that,
in the hives, yeah?
Yeah, the Asian hornets, they fly on the outside and they fly about so far before the hive, facing out, and as the bees come in, then they catch the bees, and so I need to find a way to take care of the hornet situation. Of course, I was in Korea and for the Bee-Conference there, and they make a type of liquor out of hornets. They put it, they take 300 hornets roughly and put it in a bottle of alcohol, let it set for, or no, it's not 300 hornets, about 50 hornets, and they put it in a bottle of hard alcohol, sake or whatever they have, let it set for 3 years, and then they sell it for between 300 and 400 euros a bottle.
It was for drinking?
For drinking, yeah. They apparently do this for people that have hypertension and that. Of course, at that price for a bottle, then it's interesting to have hornets. And so, apparently when they dump them into the alcohol, then apparently they have a reaction, and I don't know if the venom comes out or what, but anyhow, so there's a market also for hornets. And but like I say, it's I like to test new ideas, so that means I can always make a lot of mistakes. So,
you probably know Michael Bush, American beekeeper from Nebraska. He's treatment free beekeeper as well. He said that when you don't know what to do, you should do nothing.
That's right. So you let the bees sort it out. And they'll sort it out, and they actually sort it out a lot better than us humans do. But we're too stupid to realize that. But as I said earlier today, if they didn't have human beings around, the bees wouldn't have varroa mite problems. There would be a natural selection and a balance and all that. And so this is something that we make our own problems sometimes.
Why do you think it's such a big problem? Why there is no balance between them?
Well, because beekeepers don't let the balance take place. Simple as that. If you're in nature, you don't have somebody running around with a bunch of chemicals trying to produce to protect something, and normally in bees they're going to have their own mechanisms. There's actually resistance to the mites is probably a lot more complicated than what we realize, and sometimes it's a factor that we really don't think about at all, but maybe it's very important for the bees. We don't think it's important, but for the bees it's important. But we think maybe something else is important, so we tend to try to select for that, try to push the selection in one direction, but maybe we should be doing selecting in the other direction. And so like I say, it's one time I tried to list different mechanisms of mite resistance, and I came out with at least probably 20 different mechanisms of mite resistance, but I'm sure there's a lot more than that. But we have to let the bees find those out, and we don't wish to have the bees just concentrated on one mechanism, because if the bees become resistant to that mechanism, then they're not going to, if the mites become resistant to that mechanism, then you're going to have problems with mites. And so it's like a hula dance. You have the bees doing the hula dance, and the mites trying to follow, and the idea is that you keep the hula dance out of phase there. And to do that, sometimes you're going to have to keep the beekeeper out of the way of the bees. And it's just like if you're in your dog fight or something like that, you don't wish to get in between the dogs. You wish to let the dogs fight it out, and then take the reminds me of a joke about, wasn't a joke, there was I was going to Oklahoma on the Greyhound bus, and we were going across the bridge, and there was a dog crossing the road, and the bus driver told the dog he saw he was going to run over the dog, and he said, "Dog, you better get out of the way, better get out of the way." And of course he ran over the dog, and he said, "For those people of you that are a little bit skittish about this, you have to remember this was just a fight between two dogs, and it was the big dog that won." And but in bees also, it's the you have to give the bees a chance to defend themselves against the mites. Just like if you have a kid and you try to protect him all the time, you're not doing the kid a service. You're making him dependent, and he's not going to develop quick. Bees are like the same, and you've got a lot of genetic variation in the bees, and so let the bees express this genetic variation. It's as simple as that. And of course, as I mentioned in my talk, we helped develop a lot of the products that are used to treat against varroa mites. This was in the early 80s, and of course we did that because at that time we did not know how to select, and I figured it would be better to do something than nothing at all, and so we tried to do something, and so then after that we saw that there were different possibilities, and so we tried the different possibilities. It's, I like the statement that Conrad Lawrence once made. He's an animal behaviorist, and he said that he likes to get up in the morning and toss away his favorite hypothesis and start anew. So this is how it is there with the bees.
How long would it take, as your opinion, how long would it take for nature to get this balance if we wouldn't disturb it?
Difficult to say, but I saw in my bees that right after about 3 years, they were starting to balance out. But in the nature, it might even go faster because they don't let the things build up like that so fast. But we tend to let things build up.
There is different environment because
different environments, right. And of course, under natural surroundings, you don't have that big bee concentration all around. I was quite interested once. I was talking with Tom Seeley, and he published a paper where he demonstrated that in the orange forest, that was the bees that were in the forest that were influencing the genetics of the bees that were outside the forest, and not the bees outside the forest that were influencing those that were on the inside. And so that tells you something also, is that those are colonies in bee trees where they you couldn't work them or anything unless you went in with a chainsaw, and but still they were having a positive effect on the genetic environment in the colony, in the commercial beekeeping colonies. And so this is why I say you have to let nature do its job and try not to get in the way. And it's very difficult for beekeepers not to get in the way of the beehives, because they're trying to do things, they're trying to help the bees out, this, etc. But sometimes trying to help out too much, you're not helping out, you're damaging.
And you said in your presentation that you selected for hygienic, but of course with natural selection, so it was the bomb test, yeah? Don't you think that influencing that much in hygienic could spoil some?
Oh, yeah. Well, actually what it was, we had always selected for hygienic behavior in the bees because, like I mentioned, I had worked with Roth and Willer, and he was the one that, and we selected for hygienic behavior simply against the brood diseases, not necessarily against the mites. Actually, our colonies were more hygienic at the beginning of our test period than at the end. So indicating that hygienic behavior is not the only thing that controls mite resistance. It plays a part. It helps the colony have a better fitness. If you have bees that have European foul brood, they're not going to perhaps resist the other virus infections and things like that. Whereas if they don't have these diseases, then they can resist better. It's just like us. If we have good, what do you say, good nurture in our blood and things like that. It's good. It's a lot better than if we have a missing iron or things like that. Then we're weaker, and then we become easier to have problems. And so the idea is to help the colonies maintain their fitness as much as possible. And one of the ways also is to make certain that you're eating correctly, eating plenty of good pollen and things like that, and to do that. And it's not always easy to get the pollen for the bees.
Because we in Poland have rather poor or medium flowing conditions. It's not the best region for bees. It's not that bad as well, but it's not the best one.
Right.
Do you think it's possible to keep these treatments in such conditions where these flows are rather poor? For example, in my area I had a problem with hunger for 2 years. Whatever I put to the hive with of honey or a jar of syrup, it disappears. Just,
well, if your bees are starving, you need to keep them alive. But, one of the things you wish to, Antonio Gomez from Spain, who's a pollen expert, told me once, he said that if you have less than 4 different types of colors of pollen in your hive, you probably have a nutritional deficiency in that colony. So if you only have 1 or 2 colors of pollen, then you've got right away a nutritional problem. And so you need to find something that gets your nutrition up in those colonies. And if you have good nutrition, then it's going to be a lot easier for you to keep your bees in good health. To be able to combat bee diseases a lot better and fight off infestation.
What do you think about pollen substitutes?
Depends on the pollen substitutes, and I think some are good ideas. What you have to do is you have to feed and then see what happens afterwards. It's not because something's called a pollen substitute or a pollen supplement that it's necessarily good. That you only know is after you've fed. After you've fed, then you can decide, yes, it had a positive effect, or like I had one friend of mine, Larry Connor, he said, good, he was feeding bees pollen substitute. He was having more bees, but they were living shorter. And so, and so, like I said, it depends on what the bees are eating. Just like on humans, depends on what we are eating as to how we're going to function in the future, whether we're going to have problems with diabetes or other stuff, whether we're going to be able to resist certain viral infestations better. It's like I say, it's food is important. I like to eat ice cream, and so but everyone has their own things there. And
I've got a question because
sure.
I represent a group of amateur beekeepers.
Yeah, like me.
Maybe more amateur than me. we cooperate, we try to do our best, but would you have any advice for a group of amateur beekeepers? How we should proceed, how we should start the selection?
Okay, what I would do is, first of all, for one thing, we developed a soft pond test. You're probably treating your colonies already, maybe?
Some of us treat, some of us don't, but we have some project of exchanging colonies. They are totally treatment off.
Okay, well, what you do is, first of all, is if you're going to treat, before you treat, count your varroa mite population in your colonies. And then breed from those that are, first of all, good producers of honey or pollen, and then have low varroa counts, and gradually go forward like that.
Yeah, but if I may interrupt, because we have some problems like wiping out the whole population. For example, I had 41 hives in 2016, and spring 2017 I was left with one.
Yeah.
So it's the best honey producer, the best breeder, because it was the only one.
It was the only one that survived. That's why it's good to split out the risk among different. This is one of the advantages of working with a group of different beekeepers, is that you have colonies in different locations, and if you have a problem in one area, for instance, we had in one year in 2013, we had a lot of mortality at our breeding station there, and we had chemical analysis done on it, and we found imidacloprid was killing the bees. It wasn't the mites, but it was chemicals, and so like I say, so you can do all the selection you wish, but if you have a chemical poisoning, then you're going to run into problems. And so then the idea is to spread your risk out into different baskets, so to say, and that way it's, and as I mentioned, it's not the number of hives that counts. Maybe the beekeeper that only has one colony, like your one colony, maybe that's the best of a group of 500 colonies. But how do you know that? You have to measure, and don't be afraid to buy a pencil and a piece of paper and write down notes. You can, if you have the notes, if you wish to use them, you can. But if you don't have the notes, you can't use it. And I tend to write down a lot of notes. And one of the techniques I do is to save space on my notepad. I put my hives on a computer list, and then when I work in 1 week, I use one color ink. For instance, March 4th is red, April 3rd is green, another color, and so I can put a lot of information on a small amount of paper, and then I can also, easier to study the difference as things are evolving, because I see the different colors, and I see good at this time. I saw a deformed wing, bee with a deformed wing. I marked that because before I used to have a lot of deformed wings. Now they're very rare. So I marked that because that's a sign to me that that colony might have varroa. But you can also have colonies that have the deformed wing virus that don't have varroa. So you have to be careful about that. And so it's a situation that is complicated, but this is what it makes you interested in beekeeping also, is that you don't know the answers all the time, and maybe it's a good thing that you don't know the answers all the time, because then beekeeping wouldn't be so interesting. There's no better feeling when you go in the bee yard, when you come out in the spring, you see most of the colonies are alive and buzzing well. That's a pretty good feeling. But if you go out and you go in the bee yard and see, well, most of them are dead, etc., then that's not a good feeling. And so, and you have to overcome these periods and just force on it. And a good example is there was a drunk that went across the graveyard and he fell into a hole. And he tried to get out and he couldn't get out. And so a couple of hours later, another drunk came in and he fell into the hole and he tried to get out. And after a while, the first drunk tapped him on his shoulder and said, "You'll never get out." he did. Because he was scared so much, but and so like I say, you just have to, we always say, fight to the end. And my mother told me when I was a kid, she said, you never start a fight, but you finish it. And if you don't finish it, then that's no good. And so everyone's going to get challenges in life, and so you have to go through those challenges. And sometimes it's not very easy, but when you can get through that, then the sun comes up normally every day. Even if it's a lot of clouds, if you're in an airplane, there's sun up above the clouds. But you need to be, try and be positive on it.
Can you tell us how many hives you have now and what is your survival rate?
Okay, this right now, when I was a full-time beekeeper in France, I was running about 400 colonies. And then theoretically I retired in the year 2006. And so then I just let my colonies reduce in numbers, and so I keep bees for the pleasure of keeping.
Pictures of
yeah, well, those are in Chile. Good in Chile, we're still running a couple thousand colonies there. Before we were running more colonies, up to 9,000. But as Pancho, my colleague, was saying, when you get so many colonies and you're just in the office all the time doing paperwork, you're not working bees, and you're taking the fun away from beekeeping. And going back to your first question, I try to go through the winter with 40 or 50 colonies, but then I pass my genetic material out to my son, and so if I lose lines, then I can go back to his colonies and pull things out. Or if he doesn't have them, I've got my customers I can go to and say, do you have, because in my customer book I write the genetic line, and so that way I can, for instance, I have one Victor Covert said he had one line he picked up from me in May last year. They had a pretty good harvest this year, last year in honey, and so if I need breeder material, I can go there and get material that's tested by somebody else. It's not the idea that...
But maybe when this colony died, it died because of something. Maybe it's not that good genetic material.
Maybe, but that is difficult to say. When we have colony mortality, if we have a high mortality, for instance, this one year we had, this last year we had at the breeding station, we had a very high mortality. It was the same symptoms as what we had in 2013 when we had imidacloprid. So that's for that reason. Last Friday, I had the veterinary service in there taking samples and things like that, because I can say, good, maybe it's varroa mites, but the problem is I don't see the mites in my colonies. And I know what a varroa mite looks like. I've seen them. I remember the good old days when we'd have on the bottom was 2,000 or 3,000 mites there, and it makes a nice pepper all down there, and I don't see that anymore. From time to time, I'll see colonies with mites, and right. One thing you should do, if you can, is try to select colonies that produce lots of mites, because later on, as you have you laugh, but one year I put advertisements in the French bee journals 2 years in a row to buy mites, and I only had 2 people answer my advertisement. One said that it's a shame I just treated, and so I can't sell you any mites. And the second one said you can come to my place and pick up all the mites you were wishing. What I was wishing to do was to buy a group of 100 mites, and then after I finished my queen ring season, is to shake those into the 5-frame mating nukes and let them go through the winter and let the mites kill off what could kill gave up, but nobody had mites. However, about 15 years later, I talked to Luke Fernandez from the veterinary service in Toulouse, and he said, good, when you put in your advertisements, we had a lot of people contacting us, asking what we were buying, why we were buying mites.
How much did you pay for this?
What they were buying, why they were buying the mites. Of course, I never asked Luke if I would have had to have a health certificate for buying the mites to show that it was healthy mites and that. But at one point, you run into a problem when your mite populations drop too low, then you can't select. And also, the problem is if you have a pesticide poisoning, that also kills your mites. A lot of people don't think about it, but if you have if you're breeding and your bees are killed off or your mites are killed off, that causes a drop in your mite population also. As a queen breeder, you have to look at things from a different perspective, and that's what I was saying with these Varroa black holes and Varroa bombs. I'm not against Varroa bombs because it helps me quickly select for resistance in the colonies. When you have a problem, then you try to utilize that problem to an advantage.
Yeah, but most beekeepers think these Varroa bombs are terrible. They don't like treatment for beekeepers like us because they...
No, but that's because they haven't selected. What you need to do is, when you have colonies that can survive the Varroa bombs, pass out that genetic material to the people that have
they rather want honey producers than
no, but like I say, you didn't hear my talk well, or you were sleeping. I said that one of the first things you do is you select for production, because if you don't have colonies that are productive, nobody's going to adopt it, and I wouldn't adopt a colony if it's not productive. Why should I? And I'm in there to. I like to eat honey. I'm not there to have colonies that don't produce honey. And if you can furnish colonies to queens to beekeepers that produce more honey than their own bees and have less mite problems, you're going to be adapted. And
it's a long work from start to get
right, but you have to start somewhere, and like I say, the thing to do is measure, and then like I say, I tell beekeepers, why not have fun doing it? Have a little Varroa roundup and say, good, this week we're going to go to Urich's place and we're going to count mites, have a big barbecue and drink some beer and have some fun and whoop it up a little bit and get some mites and see where his mite population is, and then maybe a little bit later on goes to somebody else and do the same and say, good, then we saw here Urich, you had 10 colonies there that one of those has very low mite populations. Can you pass us some virgin queens so we can test and do it like that way, have fun doing it. And though, since Varroa mites are causing problems, you might as well try to have some fun also. And so that's what I say, and have fun doing it. And try to do it like that. If people are having fun doing it, then they are willing to do it. If they know they're going to go to a nice barbecue and maybe they'll find some mites, and then maybe somebody's going to have to pay out a lot of raw money for his mites. I pay 1 cent per mite, and of course the beekeepers like to brag. You know, this is normal also. And so one says, well, they came to my place and they only found 50 mites, and at his place they found 500. Ha 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 ha. He had to pay out €5 and only had to pay out 50 cents. You know, have fun doing it. And so this is...
I wish the conversation between treatment-free and treatment beekeeping would be like you say now, because
well,
it's not that easy.
No, but
is not that easy.
No, but you have to
treating neighbors. It's a problem.
Well, you have to consider those that treat. You know, they like I mentioned, they have the fear factor in that, and they don't wish to have mites from other beekeepers. And of course, I don't wish to give my mites to other beekeepers because I need them. And so everyone has their problem. And sometimes to get the mites, I have to buy frames of brood from other beekeepers to get the mites. And not only do you get the mites, you get European foul brood, you get different diseases, viruses, and everything. And so like I say, it's you just have to make the best of a bad situation, and when you do that, then you can advance. And but if you just sit around on your rear end, and my mother said that if you have a problem making ends meet, it's probably because you're sitting on one. And so, so of course, you can, maybe you're not sitting on one, maybe you still have problems with making ends meet, but still you need to get out and get active and do something. And don't sit around at home whining and doing like that. That's easy to do.
I think the problem is to get first examples to public that it can be done in your location.
Yeah, well, this
country
is
in your
once they see it can be done, and then what you have to show is that those that aren't selected, that if you're not selecting, you're losing money. That's the main point. Is an economic point is that you don't wish to have. Beekeepers don't like to lose money, so if they see that they're losing money by treating, then I know beekeepers are pretty close to their wallet, and if they see they're going to lose money, they're going to change immediately. If they see that they're not, if they don't see that they're losing money, you're not going to get them to change. And so this is the, like I say, this is. You have to show the economic aspects. That's why also.
Yeah, but it's not easy when you're starting to show economic aspects.
No, of course not. No.
Because you're losing hives, you don't produce honey. So
right, but like I say, you just have to do it. Like I say, with the soft contest, that's made for those to cover this situation. Because then you actually have
you can show something.
You can show something, and you have less losses. And actually, I think than if you treat, because when you treat colonies that don't have mites, you're damaging those queens. And as I point out, if you wish to cut some of your swarming during the season with some of these chemicals that kill the queen cells, so treat for your mites and kill your queen cells at the same time, and that way kill two birds with one stone.
Not a good idea.
And so, like I say, you have to find creative solutions, and you kind of burn your fingers from time to time. That's why I have short fingers here, you know.
Yeah, I have short.
But
I have short.
Oh yeah, you were building your own beehives probably. Yeah. I know, because when people build their own beehives, often you shake the hand and you see something is
this is the left one, so I shake with all the fingers.
Yeah, and so far I'm lucky. We build our own beehives also. We've got the power equipment to do it, and we do it. And my son's always asking me why am I not out behind the power saws building new equipment and that. I said, well, I'm on vacation until the bee season starts. Then afterwards I do that. But like I say, you just need to see other way to do things, and then don't try to close your mind, because maybe somebody has an idea that's actually quite good. It's not because you think something is good that it's necessarily good. And I know I've often changed my ideas on different things, because I tested out ideas and saw that it didn't work. And I don't know if I told you or somebody else about some people learn by reading books. Others learn by observing other people to see what they do, and others have to just pee on the electric fence, and then they see what. That's how they learn. Some people only like that.
Their experience is fuller.
Yeah, fuller. Yeah, and their learning process is quicker, and
yeah, exactly.
Because I don't know many that do it twice, and. I've hit electric fences before with bicycles, and so when I know what it is to get a shock from an electric fence. But anyhow, this, like I say, is you just have to try to find solutions and keep abreast. One of my problems is to keep abreast of all the new information that's coming out. Like I stated, when I first started studying bees, genetics or entomology at Ohio State University, they just discovered DNA. You know?
So you discovered DNA?
No, they had discovered DNA, and they said there were some cells in the a thing called mitochondria, which they did not know what it did, but they thought maybe it was associated with energy in the cell or something like that. And then during those years, and there's been a lot of changes, and for this reason, I always try to cooperate as fully as possible with scientists. It's one thing your group could do also is try to cooperate with scientists that's studying in this area, and cooperate with scientists because that way they test different ideas out, and they've often got the finances to do it. Good example, in 2016 the French Bee-Strong project came through and tested my colonies for a non-reproduction of raw mites in the brood and in the worker brood. And last year the Germans from Halle came through and Bee-Conference and tested our colonies for non-reproduction of raw mites in the drone brood. Normally if you have 100 cells of drone brood, you'll have a reproduction of 92 mites. In those 92 cells, you'll have mite reproduction, only 8% without reproduction. When it's worker brood, you'll have 88% reproduction and only 12% non-reproduction. So what they were measuring from our colonies is that they were running over 50% non-reproduction in the drone brood. And some of them they couldn't measure because they didn't have any mites to measure, so they could not measure non-reproduction. And so I've got two spots there that are blank because no mites. So you can't measure non-reproduction if you don't have the mites. And so this didn't cost me a cent to do because it came down to test and did the work, and I had fun doing it, and so it was nice to sit back and look at them doing all that hard work to find the mites in that. And
I hope we will help your problems.
And so and that gave me good scientific information on what my colonies are doing or what they're not doing. And so this is, for me, is quite interesting, and for that reason I always try to cooperate on different scientific projects because I know it costs money. I know that I don't have the finances to fund that type of work. What I like to do is give people ideas and then stimulate them to do the work, and then I look at the results. That way I see the results, but I don't have to do the work. I'm a lazy man. Sometimes you have to think like a lazy man, and sometimes it's better to get somebody else to do the job, and then you just sit there and then you can say, good, this I can use, this I can't use, etc.
Manana effect, yeah?
What?
Manana
effect, yeah. Like I say, don't do today what somebody else can do tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
But sometimes tomorrow never comes, and it's not done. But that's it. So, like I say, you just have to be positive on it. And now, according to what the group in Halle told me, they say they think they can locate on the genome the resistance, one of the resistance factors in my bees. And
they will study genetics, yeah?
They've studied the genetics, and also the INRA or the Bee-Strong projects also studied the genetics. So I'm waiting now actually for 3 scientific populations on the genomes of my bees to come out. One done by 2016 with Beast-Drawn project, and then one with the in Toulouse with the drone work, and then third project with the group from Halle, Germany, which they say they're ready to publish. And so then when they publish, then I can see what my bees are actually doing or not doing. And so, and like I say, it's for me it's quite interesting and quite motivating, because I've got results, and they're objective results. I can tell you anything. Maybe I'm the biggest liar you ever met. Why not? But maybe it's true also. But it's always better to believe yourself. I'll give you a good example. In 2009, we had the World Varroa Challenge. That's when Epimundia was in Toulouse, and we had 55 beekeepers come from 12 different countries, from Sweden, from Spain, from Germany, from China, different places, and I said that I would pay 1 cent for every varroa mite they found in my colonies. And so they came before the Epimundia Congress, they came after the Epimundia Congress, and they found a total of 109 mites. The 55 people found a total of 109 mites. I had one scientist that he took 4th place. He worked the whole afternoon. He found 12 mites. Where can you get good scientific testing for 12 cents for 4 hours of work? You know, that's cheap labor, high quality labor and cheap. And actually, we published the American Bee Journal, the paper on that, on the World Varroa Challenge, and so I can tell you anything. But if you go in and you count. There was one lady that said, "Well, come by and make a lot of money." I don't know. I don't know if she made anything at all. And I had one beekeeper, Jones from Florida. He goes between Florida and northern states there, and Wisconsin, and he had 6,000 colonies, so he knows what the varroa mites are, and he found 6 mites. So I mean, he found what happens to about 1 mite for every of his 1,000 colonies, and so I told the people, keep that money, because hanging up on the wall, because not everyone's got that money, you know. And I like to pay hard cash, and every 2 years I'll buy a roll of 50 cents, or 2 rolls of 50 cents, and I've got to buy another roll for this year. And I had somebody come in last week, and they found, I think, 20 mites, and so. But they were in the veterinary service checking out bee samples and that. And one of the things, of course, when you have the visitors come in, they do kill a lot of pupae and things like that, because I tell them, here are the different bee yards, choose a bee yard, we'll go there. You go into the colony and you uncap and do whatever you wish. And the winner of the World Varroa Challenge was Cleve the Brain from England. Second place was Seth Wick from the States. And Cleve found 20 mites, and Seth found 17 mites. What was happening is they'd gone to the bee yard, and Seth would find more mites than Cleve, and then Cleve would continue on until they found more mites than Seth. And then Seth would continue on until they found more mites than Cleve, and then Cleve would continue on, and at one point then Seth realized that no matter how many mites he was found, Cleve was going to find more mites. So at the end, it's like in sports, it was a psychological battle. You have to out-cycle the other person, and so this is what was quite interesting. And then at the end, they helped each other, because these were colonies in a couple deeps and that, so they'd help them open the brood and that, and so it was quite interesting for me. And then I had, since Seth had took second place in the World Variety Challenge, I gave out first, second, and third places for this challenge. And so I couldn't give Seth his diploma directly. And so one time I asked Seth, I said, well, Seth, if you're in California, if you're going to go to California, what's a good time to visit with beekeepers? And he said, well, you go in right after the beekeepers bring their bees in for the pollen, almond pollens, because then they have a big rendezvous. I forget whether it was at Chico, California, or someplace, or another place, and then they go down there and have a little meeting and fun and all that. And I said, well, if I'd wish to go there, who would I have to contact? And so he told me the name of the president. So I wrote the president, and I said, I've got to, and I need you to do something for me. I said, I've got Seth Rick that took second place in the World Variety Challenge, and I wish you to give him his certificate, because I can't do it. And I'd suggest the following is, you have Seth get up and say, you say, oh, we've got Seth Rick here. He was in the World Variety Challenge. He can tell us something about whether it's just a bunch of foolishness or what, or a bunch of, we say in English, BS. And so Seth came up and talked for about 15 minutes, explaining what he did. And then at the end of the talk, the president said, Seth, I've got something for you. Here's your certificate for the second place. And so he was there, and about a couple hundred beekeepers, commercial beekeepers from all over the States, and he had given an objective talk of what he saw and what he liked or what he didn't like, and at the same time he got presented with his certificate. And so for him that was a very big moment in his life, and for me it was a big moment also, because I knew that how he would have felt, you know, but doing little things like that, you can stimulate people to test. They have to, I just say, they have to see the examples. Once they see an example, then they'll try it. It's just like jumping over a cliff. You don't know if there's water down below or not, but if somebody jumps over and say, hey, the water is nice and fine, it's warm, and you might tend to jump over. I know a bad joke, a Superman joke about that also. I know I'm taking your time here, but why not? We got the time. Superman got drunk one time, and so he was with another man that was drinking there, and man said that well, there were two people that were drinking there, and one man said, yeah, when he gets drunk, he always jumps out the window in the top, and then comes back in the bottom there, and the other one was drunk, and so the first fellow, the junkie, jumped off and came back into the bottom, and the second drunk said, well, if that man can do it, so can I do it. And so he jumped out, and of course he fell down to the bottom, and bartender said, Superman, I told you never to repeat that that again, because and so this is the thing there. But anyhow, as you see, I like to talk a lot and have a lot of hot air, and so and I shouldn't talk so much, because when I'm talking, I'm not learning anything. So explain to me a little bit more about what you're doing, so that I can learn.
What we do in our association, yeah?
Yeah.
We try to cooperate in selection. We do natural selection. Mm-hmm. We exchange hives. If somebody has losses, we give him nuts from the bees that survive. Mm-hmm. We have a project like this. I will be talking tomorrow about it.
Okay, yeah.
I will have about half an hour maybe.
Mm-hmm. Don't do like me and take up the whole afternoon, but they asked me to translate into German, and so I did. But
that's mostly what we do. Each of us is let's call it leading the problem by himself, but we're together. We have about, I think, last autumn we had about 300 hives altogether, so not maybe great number, but quite big number for the selection. About half of them was treatment free, and the rest was treated as intervention. And
it's good to test treatment free material with the same treatment free material that's tested to see what the difference is. But go ahead, continue.
That's mostly what we do in our association. We also try to do interviews like the one we do to
get people to sleep.
To get people to know the ideas of treatment.
Do you know Jurek Wild from Olsen? No. He's Olsen is Polish. He teaches at the university there in Olsen. Maybe I'm pronouncing it.
In Austin.
In Neusiedl, okay.
Yeah, and see, I have a different accent, my Polish
Mr.
accent.
Wojke, yes?
What?
John Wojke?
Yeah, that's Jurek Wojke, and also Jersey.
Yeah, we've interviewed one of my friends from association. Also.
Yeah, I know Wojke from the 60s. If you see him again, tell him I said hello. But also there's somebody, Jurek Wild, I cited on this picture. Yeah.
Professor Wild.
Yeah. Why don't you contact him? He's interested in selecting.
Okay.
And you can tell him that you read his, you got the reference.
We will show him this.
Yeah, so Jersey, get off your end and help these people select.
Thank you.
I know you can do it. And in fact, you give me, you write your email address here. Okay. And I'll send you a copy of our paper with your.
I will give you.
No, you write it down here because cards I lose.
Okay.
These papers I normally don't lose, and print it so that I can
write you my email and email of our association.
Right, and so since Jurek is looking at this, I'll just talk to Jurek a little bit now, because last time I saw him was Jurek was when we were at Königer's meeting there in Germany. So I hope you and your wife are getting along okay. You might be interested to know that there's been some genome work done on our bees, that you might be able to do the same thing with this group here. You have some people that are motivated. Like they say, he just came in 400 kilometers on a bicycle to come to this talk. And so that's a motivation, and that's with the type of people you wish to work with. And at the same time, like I say, if they get a group of people that are starting to do this, and I know that you can do it. You've got your wife's got her insemination operation for producing queens in that, and you can always tell your wife that if she's got can sell bees that are very good producers and roar resistance, you got a good market there, and so work it out. And like I say. Like I told them, I said if they can work with somebody that has a scientific basis and knows they can help out, then they can go progressing a lot. And so maybe this is the most important thing of our talk here at York, is that we're going to try and get you involved in this, and if you get involved, I'm certain that beekeeping in Poland is going to progress a lot.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so dobry dzień.
Do widzenia.
Dobry dzień.
Thank you very much for the conversation.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, and so I hope you didn't sleep too much.
No.
But like I say, talk with Jurek. I know him quite well. He's motivated also.
Okay.
And worst comes to worst, I can always come to Poland to give him a hand.
Okay.
And and so, like I say, well, why not try and profit of the situation? And like I say, maybe if when you go back to Poland, you go show Jurek this film, and it just might be what it takes to
To break the ice.
To break the ice. Of course, and so, like I say, do what you can do there. And like I say, Jörg, if you're looking at this, Bruce from Toulouse, and hope to see you in Poland sometime, or you come down to Toulouse. Jörg also came down to our place. He slept on the hay out the farm. We still got the good old hay there where you can sleep, and so be nice to see you come down again also.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Sure.